Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 28th of December. Well, not much to say. New highs, continuing the soft approach. Again, of course, we're still in positive extreme. A little bit of an uptick here from a short standpoint starting the day, but nothing relevant at this point. But if we get this kind of increase and it finishes off the day like that, it's a start towards something, which would be a new push towards highs because you can see full DOC steel reset is still in place. So plenty of money to continue to drive things. Science still under red. No change as far as that goes. Does that mean that we still shouldn't expect some kind of pullbacks towards the at least ABM yellow here? Potentially, but not that significant. We're still going to get some back and forth within that, but we did see a little bit more of a range move, if you want to even call it that. It was pretty muted, but nonetheless, it was a little more chaotic when you look at it from an intraday standpoint. But like I said, the end of day print would still look reasonable, and it in fact did. So no shock there, and you can still see it's quite strong. And this is that belief that something significant is happening within the economy because bonds continue to drop yield. So the expectation is the Fed is literally going to move back towards almost zero rates again. Well, not quite that far, but being hyperbolic in the sense that this move is way outside of where we currently are from an actual rate standpoint. And what a shock to the markets it would be if the Fed didn't follow through exactly with what's being stated here. Oil eased back, so that's obviously helpful. But again, with the world conditions, that can change at any moment. At this particular stage, though, if we start to see a real decline in oil, then we would really suggest that there's been some kind of economic change that would justify all that we're seeing. But as that softens and that dollar's continuing to puke, so to speak, as we see a ridiculous climb again for the euro, nothing's changed in the eurozone to justify it. So this is all dollar based, and of course we would expect to see it in commodities. Gold pushing back up towards the 76% range here. Still relatively muted, I think, given what we've seen from at least the crypto advance. Bitcoin was soft, but we saw a lot of activity from ETH way outperforming in this standpoint and making a significant move. And some of that's crypto related news. And it's this continued push towards digitizing all sorts of assets. You see it from the EU, particularly here, where digital IDs are making a worldwide push, and that's eventually going to lead to this, tokenization view of everything, and it's a real issue. The question really becomes, when the courts and governments agree and when they have control over it completely, then it'll get adopted. Until that point, a little back and forth, but needless to say, you can see the future coming at you, and you're going to have to deal with it or get left behind, so to speak. From a 50K standpoint, it's pretty much just within that range. We saw a little bit of softness to start off the day. That came down. We just hit 76% and popped right off that. And you can see here, even for 50K, a little more activity from MBI White, but not significantly enough to really be of a dramatic impact. So again, more of that back and forth range. Not surprised. I think we see it here on the 5K best. Started off the pump, dump, did it several more times, dramatic pumps, and this is that light volume and nice little stop testing, cleared everybody out just below the lows, and then shot back up. And when you're looking at a 5-minute bar that's doing this kind of thing, you can see what I'm talking about as far as light volumes. You can have that impact for a short period of time. So post market rallied up, cleared out any additional shorts, and any new longs popping in, they cleared them out as well by going the opposite direction. So we're pretty much flat to start with, but that's significant enough of a range to still have some movement. I mean, it's not huge, 12 points or so, but still. movement. All in all, you know, for as much as we're seeing from a dramatic move in some of these other areas, market's really not impacted by it at this particular stage. Is that a little bit of blind willfulness? Potentially, but this is the beauty of markets. They're not necessarily correlated to the real world. They are perceptions, and we just have to go with the perception at this particular stage. And in this case, the algos are still pointing towards higher, and no reason to fight what is. To me, it's interesting. You don't fight the Fed, but we're at a point where they're now trying to presuppose what the Fed's going to do, and they were wrong most of last year, which caused some significant moves. And so far, they're maybe ahead of the game in projecting what's going to happen, or there's a real concern that there is something significantly damaged within the economy. It wasn't a surprise that you would see the support for Biden's reelection with cutting rates at some point, but is it justified with where inflation and that is? We're going to see. Of course, it's difficult because you have to sort through the numbers. What you see from a print on the daily isn't necessarily what's really going on. It just becomes a question for real people. If you're buying certain products to maintain living, are they more expensive than the current inflation rate? Yeah, they are. So, how valuable is that information? Not so much. So, but overall, things are still plugging along, and you're still getting positive growth numbers. So as long as that's the case, it's pretty hard to justify a huge amount of rate drops. But there's this narrative going that inflation is going to return to roughly zero, and everything's going to be beautiful. So if you're in that camp, then market's doing exactly what you expect. Now, should you be prepared for some kind of change in that narrative when the real world pops its head out? Yeah, potentially. But we'll get into those kind of things later on. But for now, Christmas rally has continued and probably going to stay smooth until probably just right before the end of the year when there's some rebalancing going in to start the new year. But we'll be on top of it. Readings will have it pretty clear. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk again later. Anything relevant, I will certainly put on Skype chat.